In this video, I'm going to give you some information about the ScanGauge II. It's an OBD2 scan tool that you can use to check your engine codes, and it does a lot of other things for you. And in my experience, it more than paid for itself really quickly. I'm not sure where I've heard about this from, but I've seen it, I think, on a performance website, a company called IPD. They do a lot of Volvo improvements and upgrades. And this tool is primarily designed to help you monitor the systems in the car. As I said, this plug here, which is similar to a network cable, it plugs into the unit, and the other end of it plugs into your OBD2 port. Most of these ports, of course, are under your dash, but mine is in front of my shifter. At any rate, you plug this thing into your OBD2 port, and then you are able to monitor systems in the car. As you can see, this TFC is the total fuel cost of my last trip, which is something that's neat to have. So, these are the basic 4 gauges that I generally have displayed on mine at all times. Actually, I don't normally have the total fuel cost on there. I normally have that, which is my engine temp on mine. Now up here, this gives my real-time gas mileage. This gives my average gas mileage while I'm driving. This down here shows my voltage of my battery while I'm driving, and the charging system health, and the one to the right shows my engine temperature. So I'm constantly monitoring my engine temperature. Now you can change these to display other things, and you can even program them to change things. Total fuel cost, this will show you the horsepower that you're currently using. This is a sensor reading, CPM. I don't know what they all stand for, but you know, you can actually set this up to show what you want. I think that's an intake air temperature, fuel pressure, if your car will display that, gallons per hour, the ignition timing, whether it's open or closed loop, or how advanced you is. This is the load on the motor. That's the loop, open or closed. Your map, miles per gallon, miles per hour, in case you have a speedometer that has error. And this can be calibrated. Your rounds per minute, your throttle position sensor, and back to your temperature. So those are some of the primary gauges that can be displayed real time. As you can see, the display gives several live data, actually 4. I'm averaging 18 miles to the gallon. My engine temperature is 108 degrees Fahrenheit. You can change that to Celsius. My system is charging at 13.4 volts, and I'm stopped, so I'm getting 0 miles to the gallon right now. So you can display up to 14 or 16 different screens there, and you could actually program them to change. And if I switch this one here, now it's telling you how much it has cost me so far in fuel since I've had the car started and been driving. So I've spent 32 cents worth of gas, and now as I start driving again, you'll notice that number climbs as I'm driving. So when I get to where I'm going, I know what it costs to drive there. So there are several different gauges that you can switch between. Now, other than your real-time gauges, you also have other things that you can set up, like you can set your gauge up more. You can go to your setup, set up your colors, your engine size, your fuel tank size, and all these other things. You can also set up what kind of system your gauge has. Then you can look at your trip meter. Now this is a nice feature that helps you monitor and get better fuel mileage out of your car. Now, when I take it to my trip gauge, press it twice, it'll show you today I drove 64 miles. My max RPM was 5,200 RPMs. I drove for a little over 3 hours today. My maximum miles per hour was 68. I was getting an average of 19 miles per hour. My total cost for fuel today was $11.04. My average miles per gallon was 20.2, and I burned 3.15 gallons today. My max temperature was 216, and that was today. Then I could switch that to my previous day. I drove 30 miles, max RPM, and I can go through those different things on this screen as well. Show you how many gallons I use. Then I can switch it, my tank to empty. It thinks I can go 273 miles. That's, of course, is something that's programmed. And my last trip that I made, my maximum RPM was 228. I drove that little distance. My maximum speed, miles per hour average, it cost me 44 cents, 18 miles per gallon, so that was a short trip. And it just shows the different things on that trip meter. Now, one thing that I really appreciate about this gauge more than anything else is that it allows you to monitor your real time and your average miles per gallon on that front screen, which was the gauge screen. Now, while you're monitoring your real-time miles per gallon and your average miles per gallon, something inside your head subconsciously turns this miles per gallon thing into a game. And it actually programs you subconsciously to get better gas mileage out of your car. Example, I had a Volvo 960, which was Volvo's flagship car, a 2.96 cylinder engine. Well, before I got this gauge, I was getting an average of 21 miles a gallon around town, 25 miles to the gallon around the freeway. Well, after getting this gauge and learning the best way to drive that car, I was getting 25 miles per gallon around town and as much as 30 miles to the gallon on the freeway, just by finding the sweet spot in the car. No, I wasn't driving 75 miles an hour, but how often do you really need to drive 75 or 70? If you could tweak that down a mile per hour or two and increase your fuel mileage by 10 or 15%, you'll save a lot of money. An example is my first year with this, I saved on approximately $576 was the calculations. Now this gauge costs about $169, but that savings more than paid for itself in the first year. Now, one thing I really like about this average daily miles per gallon monitor, if something happens to my car and my miles per gallon drops all of a sudden, that lets me know that something is wrong and I need to get it fixed, because you do not want to lose miles per gallon on a daily basis and have a situation where you're losing money on your gas mileage. Another thing that I really like is the fact that if you're monitoring your engine temperature on a daily basis and you all of a sudden see that your engine temperature is rising or falling, that lets you know that there's something that you need to get taken care of. For instance, I know my car never gets over 216. That's where my fan kicks in. If all of a sudden it starts getting up to 200, 225, I might want to pull the car over and figure out what in the world's going on. Another thing is, if you know that your car normally runs at 188 degrees Fahrenheit, and all of a sudden it starts running at 168 or 175, you know that your thermostat is getting worn and you need to replace it. The other day, somebody asked me to help them fix something on their car. So I fixed it, and I took the car for a drive. I plugged in the gauge, and within 5 minutes, I noticed that the car was not warming up to the optimum temperature. The needle on the temperature gauge was just about reading where it was supposed to, but the car was actually running 20 degrees colder than it should have been. So that car may have been losing 10 or 20% on its gas mileage because it was running rich, because it didn't know that the car was at its peak operating temperature. Whenever your car runs colder than it's supposed to, it'll use more gas. So that's a good early indication that the car needs a thermostat. You can change it before it totally fails. Another good thing about the tool is that you will actually have your own scanner. You can scan and read codes. I hit the scan button. It said it didn't know if I had any codes, so I can push that. Now it says I have no codes, and it gives me a ready signal. So this tells me that my car is ready for the state inspection, especially the fact that I have no codes and the system's reporting ready, and I'm good to go. Then I could check to see if I have pending codes, and it says I have none pending. Now, most 95 cars are exempt from your OBD2 scan to pass inspection, but if you got a 96 or newer car, this is a handy little tool. So if you're having issues with your car passing inspection, you can actually mess with this thing, get it to give a ready, and then get your tail to the inspection place so that you can pass inspection and then take care of your issue or problems later. Another neat little thing that these have for you speed junkies or people that want to check your performance for different upgrades, if you go to your trip setting, you have an option for performance. You click on that performance and you have things that you can monitor, or you can check your memory, or you can arm it. On this arm setting, you can be sitting at a dead stop. And as soon as you hit the gas, this gauge will start doing a quarter-mile test. And once it reaches a quarter-mile, it'll lock in your high speed and your quarter-mile time. Now, or you can stop it. So I can go here, and it actually stores like 3 of those quarter-mile times. So it says memory none, so I may not have any in there. So let's see here. No, I don't see any stored in here. But had I had some quarter-mile tests that I had actually put in here, I could actually pull these things up and see what the different quarter-mile times were that I had stored in here. So this gauge is really handy. It's got a lot of features. It's got some other programmable features of it. You can go to ScanGauge.com and learn more about it. They do have a smaller version of it that doesn't do as much as this one does for a little less money. But I'm telling you, if you buy this ScanGauge, it'll pay for itself in a year just in helping you learn how to get better gas mileage out of your car. So, if you don't have a code reader and you'd like to have a good one that maybe does other things as well, I highly recommend the ScanGauge. Like I said, it'll pay for itself, and you can read your own codes and help your friends out as well. If you feel that this information was beneficial, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can also subscribe to my channel so that you can get notification of future videos that I post. Visit my channel. I have all types of do-it-yourself videos there. You can leave questions here, and I'll try to respond to them as quick as possible. You can also visit my website at robertspinner.com. Thanks again for watching.